Okay. Good evening and welcome to another episode of the James Lambert podcast. And tonight I am delighted to have joined me Dominique Brightmon. He is an award-winning speaker and certified member of the John Maxwell Team. He is the best-selling author of Going North, Tips and Techniques to Advance Yourself, Stay the Course, the Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success. Dom also hosts the Going North podcast, a top-rated self-help podcast that interviews authors from all over the world. His mantra, and I like this, ladies and gentlemen, his mantra is advance others to advance yourself. So Dom, a very warm welcome to you. How are you doing?
My man, James, thanks a bunch, man. Feels great to be with you, man. Love the accent. I'm pretty sure you get that a lot. Yeah, man. Been doing pretty good, man. Been doing pretty good. It's been one heck of an interesting 2020. Funny enough, actually saw a meme online where it was this person driving in there in the windshield, and out of their windshield, they saw a cow flying. And then in the caption on the bottom, it said, under normal circumstances, I would ask, what the hell is this? But since it's 2020, I'm just going to keep driving.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, I think that so aptly describes, which for many of us has been a very challenging year at best. And at worst, I know there's a lot of people in pain and suffering. And this is why I wanted to talk to you, Dom, because in great part, I believe your story, I believe your work, and specifically your books and podcast are a much needed light, a ray of light. And particularly, dare I say it, maybe now more than ever. And we're going to get into this. But please, just for the benefit of the viewers, those that may not have come across you or your work before, can you just introduce what you're about, what you do, and then how you arrived at this juncture, please?
Sure thing. So for those that don't know me yet, name's Dominique Dom Brightmon. I've been a host of the Going North podcast for a few years, 3 years and counting. And main my main mantra in life is advance others to advance yourself. And what I do is I'm a certified self-leadership expert / trainer that coaches and empowers others to share their stories through motivational teaching or book casting. And what got me to this point was the fact that I was always around people that really challenged me to be better, or if they didn't challenge me to be better, they at least encouraged me to at least make something of myself in this lifetime, because we all go through this form of life on this planet at least once, so we got to at least try to make the best out of it that we can. And really just having those people around me and being around those opportunities helped me to really get to where I am, because funny enough, like I actually was raised in the church. Funny enough, I was a church boy probably about all my life. 2 weeks old, was christened in a black church in Baltimore, Maryland, raised there for just about all my life. Got some public speaking experience because they want kids to get that experience early, like, hey, reciting scriptures in front of the older parents and the adults. They'd be like, oh, that's the baby, looks so cute, man. That's my son, that's my daughter, granddaughter, little nephew, and all the other good stuff. And just doing plays and all the good stuff to give me the experience of public speaking, and then taking some of the church experience with being an usher boy to the public library, and then staying there for 13 plus years. Funny now, looking back, and really getting customer service experience and transforming in multiple ways, because I'm an introvert, but I like to call myself an extroverted introvert, because I recharge by being alone. But when I'm out and about, I'm usually a social butterfly, and I've gotten to the point where I'm more comfortable in my own skin, where I can actually connect and communicate more effectively with others. So that's a little bit about me and kind of how it all really came to be. I'm pretty sure there's more stuff, but who knows what happens later.
No, we'll draw it out, Dom, but I want to pick up on that point. I like how you said a journey towards becoming more confident with yourself. This, I believe, is a very powerful key to overall holistic success. Can you tell me a little bit about your personal journey and what it looked like maybe previously, if you were at all shy or whatever growing up?
Sure thing, James. Love the fact that you said holistic success. That's like the first time, literally. That's like literally the first time someone's actually used those two words together. And I feel like that's something that folks need to run with more often. So if you got a t-shirt idea, holistic success, run with the man. But yeah, man, like really the ability to really get more self-confidence. And that really came from working in a public library because things that, especially in the United States, in certain places like libraries, you may think of them as the classic card catalogs, old white ladies walking around pushing carts or being mean, telling you to shush all the time. And that wasn't the case for me in my library because the one where I worked at in particular, we're right behind the high school where we serve anywhere from 1 to 300 teens after school during the school year, Monday through Friday. And we also help a lot of senior citizens and folks get jobs and get used to technology, doing technology classes. And then there's another part of the library that's called Storyville for kids ages birth to 5 to be able to actually get that kindergarten readiness within themselves for parents and kids to stay together
Yes.
and play together. So being in that, basically that little community hub that's a resource for the community, talking with folks from multiple different generations will really help you to break out of your shell because I was a shy kid. I talked around people. I love to help people, but being in that environment helped me to really break out of that shell. And that's kind of what everyone needs to really do for themselves in their lifetime, is to really get out of their metaphorical zip code and get into a new place, an environment that'll challenge them to become better and not butter, because that's what helped me to really get better and not butters. Because when you're around people, when you talk with people, especially sometimes there may be folks of different varying levels of education, because there may be folks who may be corporate employees, there may be professionals that come and pick up their books, but there's some other folks who may not be as mentally acute and aware, and heck, even have some autistic kids and have to learn to communicate with them as well. Being able to communicate with all those different varying generations of people will really help you to get out of it. So that's really what helped me. Funny enough, it was actually one moment in particular. Well, there's multiple moments. It was one moment where I realized that the library is like a public one, especially if you have an open face. Like sometimes people have those TMI moments where they talk to you like, what the heck? I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to tell you anyway. It's like they're a bartender. Instead of pouring alcohol, I'm basically shoving books to them slowly, like I'm doing a drug deal across the table, metaphorically speaking. And they just tell me all their woes and whatnot. And one older gentleman, he actually told me about his son who was acting up in school and was struggling in math class. And when he mentioned that, I'm like, you know what? I'll just take him to the math section. And then he asked about Spanish books too, took him to the Spanish section. And then I also handed him a biography by the rapper who sadly has passed away a couple years ago, Prodigy from Mobb Deep, who had a biography about his infamous life where he talked about his life when he was actually born with sickle cell, but he was able to create a form of success for himself by really using music as a way to really get his art out there, and just really showing and giving that book to the older man who was happy to receive that in hopes to giving it to his son to hopefully read more, is to really giving him that experience of really realizing, you know what, there's people that are just like me that are on covers of stages and books and whatnot that have a form of success for themselves, if not holistic success. So really, that's just really what's helped me to really get that confidence and to really transform to where I am now.
Wonderful. Oh, thank you for sharing that. I also have a deep affinity for libraries in particular and books in general. I believe in great part they've saved my life. And
Mm.
when I was growing up, just to offer you a little bit of context there, Dom, amid all the violence and the turmoil, the library was the one place where none of the knuckleheads and the gang members or the fighting would occur. So it was a refuge. And within it, I learned to fall in love with reading and the peace that the library brought. So I love that. And I mention that because it's like a shared thing, how powerful books and the library is. And particularly when you referenced the powerful group Mobb Deep, again, growing up, because it was very inspiring to us, particularly here in the UK, because of the violent, strong lyrics. It certainly helped me in some of my training and getting ready for fights. So again, another shared connection there. But Dom, tell me, moving away, growing up from the church, Tell me, if you may, some of your family. How did you get on? Have you got any siblings? Tell me about your family and how that shaped and molded you as a young man.
Sure thing. So my brother, he was actually a good 10 plus years older than me. Like I'm the baby of the family. I got two older sisters and an older brother. The sister's there in South Carolina and stayed about a good 500 miles away from where I am currently in the U.S. My brother's still here in the Baltimore area of the U.S. of A. And my parents themselves, they were in their 50s and 60s when I came around. So they were basically in that time where it's like, all right, we got the baby here. We're going to enjoy this one while we can and can get away with the little stuff. I didn't do nothing too stupid that I know of anyway. Nothing like drugs or gangs or violence or anything, because really, like both of my parents, they're both spiritual. That's why I was in the church all the time. My father, especially, he was really the spiritual foundation of the household. Yeah, my mom, she would be the one who would be more vocal about it, but my father, he would be the one that would take me to Sunday school classes every Sunday, and he would be on the choir, he would be in the Bible studies, he would be the trustee counting the money and helping out. Heck, even up to his 80s, before he really got gravely ill, he would still be lifting heavy boxes for the food pantry that the church has with the donated food from the food bank. And really just them setting that example of really laying that foundation, and then being around some other folks in the church that really helped me out. Heck, even including my father, there's another guy by the name of Mr. James. He was a good guy. Funny enough, your name is James too. Good thing. Jays are great people, as you can tell. And he taught me two wonderful things. One of them was that to know peace, you must know war. And with you being a boxer that you are, like, I'm pretty sure you know a lot about metaphorical warfare, putting your body through hell and really having to go into the battlefield of that squared circle of really going in there and boxing those guys that you fought. Because I saw one of your clips that Jeff sent me. I'm like, yeah, dude, knocked him out good. And
Now that's
the other
very
thing,
powerful. Dom, can you just repeat that? I'd like to write that down.
sure thing, sure thing. So the powerful phrase is, to know peace, you must know war. To know peace, you must know war.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Ah, yeah. And funny enough, there's also another thing, and I'll even play a guessing game with you. He actually shared a magic word with me. Any guessing on what the word might have been, James?
A service or gratitude?
Nah, it actually was the magic word of no.
Mm.
Yeah, he actually told me that was the magic word because he was talking from his own experience, because this was when my early, well, not early, but late teenage years,
Mm.
when I went back to Bible class with him. And he was talking about how when he first joined the church, he was so bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, volunteering for everything, that he was burnt out from volunteering. It's kind of like the whole candle from both then sort of thing, but he
Yes.
really needed more wax. Like, you know, it's bad when it's like, forget the candles. Like, man, I just need more wax, man. I'm getting close to the real explosion here. So really just that magic word that we all really need to actually keep in mind, because yeah, man. I mean, yeah, it's good to say yes to things, but sometimes if you say yes unthinkingly and you're known and you have a good reputation as being the go-to guy and you don't put out quality, then that'll look bad on yourself for saying yes at that moment.
It's a very good point, Dom. And it reminds me of something I have to remind myself, certainly weekly, and it's to be selfish in order to be selfless. And at
Mm,
first blush, you think, oh, selfish. But as we know, why indeed on the airplane do they instruct us in an emergency to put the oxygen mask on oneself first? Because
mm-hmm.
of course, if we're passed out, if we're unconsciously walking through life, if we're beat up, broken, depressed, how can we possibly help others? So yes, thank you for that powerful reminder. And I also like that seeming paradox: to know peace, you must know war. Because in great part in my own life, I think why you can really empathize with another's suffering, when you can really feel for someone else, it's when you too have walked in those shoes. And as you say, it's easier for a man that has never experienced this visceral hardship, particularly of war, of war, the internal jihad, I call it. You don't have to be a fighter, and I don't have to be psychic to know that you've gone through that. You've gone through the internal jihad. And if we may, Dom, this is a perfect point, a segue. Can you describe one of the challenges you have faced and overcome in your own life growing up?
Yes. One of the major things I had to overcome was realizing that I had to really see adversity as a gift. Adversity as a gift, because one of the things that, like, one of the, I forgot how the quote went, but how it mentions how God gives you an opportunity, but it's wrapped up in adversity. It's kind of like you on Christmas Day, you're going to get a gift, but when you go to the tree, you realize it's wrapped up in barbed wire and a rubber ducky that's talking like Macho Man Randy Savage taunting you. It's like, you don't want to open me, brother, because you're gonna hurt your hands. You sure you wouldn't want this gift, brother? And it's like, like, yeah, I want it. Well, you're gonna hurt your skin, and I'm gonna laugh at you and enjoy it. And it's really just that to go with, because one of the major things I had to deal with was really just the internal warfare of am I enough? Am I enough? Because funny enough, like I think it was probably in my early 20s going to college, I was going through a time where I realized, you know what, I wanted to get my IT degree
Yeah.
because I really, I felt like that was where the money was at the time. It still is in a way, but at the same time, it's like it really didn't allow me at the time. I didn't see how I wasn't really passionate about it. Like I was chasing the dollar as opposed to the destiny. It's like if you chase your destiny and do some things that you hate while chasing it, then the dollars will come. Because like the classic advice of, hey, if you pursue something that you love, the money will follow. I was like, yeah, eventually it will, depending on the situation. Like you can't really profit off of underwater basket weaving to my knowledge yet.
Yeah.
And that's really what led to that, was really just that, because one of the things I had to deal with was really realize, like, am I enough? Am I enough? Because funny enough, on day my 21st birthday, on my way to class, I was thinking to myself, like, man, it's 21. I'm on my way to class. Like, man, this is kind of geeky here. It's like I'm into IT class, and then I really should be celebrating. I should have just skipped class today. But I figured, you know what? Why don't I pay the debt now as opposed to paying later, so that way I can party later? And the party came later that same day, where after making a left turn, the darn car skidded to a curb, and it wasn't even raining anymore that day, and my car crashed, and I was basically without a car for a good 2 months, and basically having to go to class, just borrowing another car from my mom because she still had a little hoopty that could still get you to point A to point B. And also almost losing my job at the library at the time of realizing, you know what, like with all the things, like the adversity thing, like the car crashing on my 21st birthday, and then a couple weeks later being called in by the boss because the personal life is showing up in the professional life. And that's something that I'm sure everyone has to deal with, men especially, because we're taught from basically our whole lives, like, hey, you can't show weakness, you can't show tears, can't cry, can't do anything. Like, you have to be strong at all times. And I thought I was doing that, but it was still seeping out anyway.
Yes.
And we just have to realize, like, hey, if we really want to really shine at our best, we have to make sure we're setting aside time to really take care of ourselves and giving ourselves some self-care and some true self-love, like true self-love, like loving yourself in terms of liking yourself and like, hey, I like myself. I like myself.
Yes.
And then waking up and telling yourself you like yourself and going out there and giving yourself time to breathe, to meditate, to heck, even doing something that'll really help you to really get over that edge. Like, heck, yeah, I was doing Taekwondo for a few years. That was one thing that really helped me to get better and more fit in a way. Heck, even did CrossFit for a short bit. Just finding things to really help you to detox in a way.
Yes.
And to become better.
Wonderfully, wonderfully said. Yes, for you, Dom, how did you find, looking back retrospectively, how did you gain the self-awareness to get yourself out of maybe what may have become a pit of despair? How did you have the self-awareness, or indeed did you have good mentors that challenged you to say, hey, you need to move more, you need to make time to rest and believe in yourself?
Yeah. Funny enough, the meeting with the boss, I'd have to consider her one of the mentors, one of the triggers for that. because when she mentioned how she was getting these new employees coming in and how I was going to be looked at as a leader, subconsciously, it was still in my mind. Consciously, it wasn't.
No.
And then a few days later, I went into the leadership section of a library and picked up a book by John Maxwell.
Yes.
And all those books from him that I kept on reading were about leadership as well as self-development. And it really helped me to really get better. So that's another thing too, is like sometimes we may not catch things automatically. Sometimes we have to see things multiple times. It's like the whole plan that everyone has until they get punched in the face. I'm pretty sure you can speak to a lot. Even with some of your opponents were thinking, like, yeah, man, I got this great plan here. I'm unstoppable. Oh, shoot, speed bump. All right, I got to drive over this thing.
Yeah.
That was really the thing. Like my subconscious mind and my boss at the time, those are really the two mentors that helped me to get over that hump at the time and to realize that, hey, like adversity is a gift.
Yes. I like that. Yes, it truly is. Adversity is a gift, and it's a difficult conclusion to arrive at. And yet, when we do it, our entire perspective changes for the better. Now, Dom, tell me, I'd like to get on to a little bit of your work today, and indeed as a best-selling author. Now, we know your love of books and working in the library. What was the spark, or where did the creative urge to actually write a book of your own come from?
Yes, I believe it was March 21st, 2014, I believe. It was on a Wednesday evening after I just got done with a big victory in another notch in my belt at the time because I had a public speaking seminar that I did for my church where a friend of mine came in. He did the keynote speech and got everybody trained and everything. And we had a great attendance. 90 people showed up and it was great. Folks at the church loved it. And I was like, yeah, okay, good. And I went to this Toastmasters club called the Catonsville Toastmasters Club. And there was this guest speaker by the name of Daniel Alley. And he was about a good 2 years older than me at the time. I believe I was 20. I think I was 22. Yeah, I think 22.
Mm.
Probably around 22 at the time, 20, 21, 22. And he was around 24, 25.
Mm.
And he gave this awesome speech called How to Act Like a Leader. And he put ACT in an acronym. And the acronym was, the A was for audacious.
Mm.
The C is for contagious. And the T is for tenacious. When you're a leader, you got to be audacious enough to go after your goal. The contagious leaders are contagious. People see and people do. And the T, the tenacious, you have to really stay in the fight as you're going in boldly after your goals and your dreams,
Yes.
especially if it's something that you truly believe in. And
Mm.
he even had a book of his called You Are the Boss that he was selling afterwards.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, it's like, you think this will be a good book? Like, you think this will work, man? He's like, yeah, it'll work. It'll be good. I gave him $20. I went home and it was a darn good book. It's in my top 50 of
Wow.
books of all time because really seeing a fellow millennial in action who was only a couple years older than me, writing about the same stuff I was reading about at the time,
Yes.
really clicked for me, realizing that, you know what, I think I can write a book of my own too. And 2 years later down the road, my first book was published, Going North, because someone else's action was the inspiration. Like your action is going to be the inspiration for someone else to do something that they want to do for their own lives. So like you never know, like James yourself, I'm sure folks have learned from you, whether it was through your life or through your boxing. I know you're an author too with the book Unstoppable. Like folks have read your book and they've been inspired by it. I'm sure there's others out there that are still going to be reading in the future that's still going to be inspired by it. It's like one positive action that they see consistently over time will have a snowball effect in someone's life. And they'll be like, I can do it too. If they could do it, I can do it too. So that's really what helped me to really just have the idea of really writing a book and actually publishing one.
Oh, thank you for sharing. That's lovely. And as you say, that was Going North. You've actually written another one, Stay the Course, The Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success. Can you tell us how you came by writing that, please?
Sure thing. So after Going North was published, it was around 2016. I said to myself, this book is an unfinished product, but I launched it anyway, and it turned into a business for me. And I'm glad it did. I'm glad it took action. And that's the thing that people need to keep in mind is that imperfect action will lead to an excellent outcome if you take the action and learn as you go.
Yes.
And I said to myself, 2 years after book one was published, I'm going to have a sequel to it. And 6 months after the publishing of book one, Going North, my father passed away after his long battle with dementia.
Sorry to hear that.
Because, yeah, it thanks a bunch. It was one heck of an experience because being a caregiver for him, like 2012, the month before the car accident, that's what really added another cherry on top to the darn cupcake of adversity here. And him passing away, like there was anticipatory grief with that whole situation. Like we knew it was coming, but when it actually happened, like it was still affecting me. Like you can anticipate grief all day. You can anticipate taking hits all day, but until it actually happens is a different story. And a few months after he passed, I started a podcast and then interviewed all these wonderful folks and then had to overcome imposter syndrome and tell other folks my goals. Like, hey, I said I was going to be writing this book. And then I had a great colleague named Robbie, good dude. I told him about it and he kept on asking me about the book because it was getting close to October 2018 at the time. And the book wasn't even looking close to being out. And he kept asking me about it. And then about a good, my goodness, it was 7 months later, 2019 last year, at the time of this recording, the book finally launched and it became a bestseller because people in my corner, I told them my goals and they were holding me to that fire, that candle. And that's what men really need is to really have people that call them out on their BS comfortably, like being around folks that are comfortable
Yes.
calling out on your BS and really encouraging you to be the best that you can. Like
Lovely.
that's really what we need to really keep in our circles like that.
Absolutely. Yes. And this is a wonderful point. Dom, can you illuminate the importance of one's company? I believe in this hugely, but I'd like to hear your views on it and how in particular it's helped you in your life.
Yes, and that's actually one of the keys to lead performance in the book is connection awareness. Connection awareness, because those you're connected to are really going to connect you to your future goals. It's like, heck, even one powerful question you can ask somebody, like if you ever have virtual coffee with someone, is that who do you know that I should know? And when you ask people that, you'll never know where it could take you because that's led me to multiple areas. Like one guy who was a LinkedIn expert, like Mike Sheila, he connected me with a bunch of other folks who started me off on my podcasting journey, like asking that one question and just building relationships with people
Yes.
really will help you to become better. And heck, even staying connected with people that are really positive and really trying to do something positive in the world because that's really one of the most powerful things. Like you can get things done alone, but a team is really where the magic is going to happen. Like you got to let 100 flowers blossom. Like you're going to get more done faster with a team than you on your own. Like the lone wolf, the lone ranger, it looks cool and romantic in our heads and everything, but nah, it's not really good. It's not really good in the long one.
It reminds me of, I think it may even be a wonderful African proverb, but it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to
Mhm.
go far, go with company. And it's the importance, as you say, of a good team, of being held accountably. I like what you said, gentle accountability. As you say, and we can do it. By Jove, it can be challenging. Of course it can, but we can do it gently. But as you say, accountability, I found in my own life is very important. Indeed, that's why, as we both know, it's so important to work with a coach. And I'd like to ask, you've already mentioned some of your mentors, but are there any people, particularly in your growth as a speaker and as an author, are there any particular mentors you would like to give homage to?
Wow, let's see here. I think folks can probably see this one coming. I may be a little biased because I'm certified under him, but John Maxwell would be the role model. And the main reason is because last year when I went to get certified under him, he was a good 72 years old. And he was at his best on stage at 72.
Wonderful.
And that's the main reason why I would consider my role model in public speaking because he's a motivational teacher
Yeah.
as opposed to a motivational speaker. A motivational speaker gets you charged up, and when you leave the door, you don't know why the hell you're so happy. A motivational teacher, they'll get you happy, motivated, but you have a tool to walk out with that you can actually use
Yeah.
to keep up the level of motivation. And if anyone's familiar with John Maxwell, when you've seen him speak, he's usually in a stool
Mm.
talking to you like that good old crazy uncle, sharing some great stories with you. And he didn't really use the stool that much when he was at the certification event.
Mm.
He the first night of the event, he was on stage and he was moving around.
Mm.
And I was like, wow, like he really turned it up and
Yeah.
he really gave his best. And the thing is, like, he's always getting better because he always talks about hey, folks like to give him the admiration for the communicator that he is now, but he always like to jokingly say, "Is like you should have seen me 40 years ago
Yeah.
when I first started preaching in a small church in Hillham, Indiana, where he basically was garbage compared to now,
Yeah.
and he's just now hitting his stride." And that's encouragement for me. It's like I'm still 29 right now
Yeah.
and looking forward to in my 70s still getting better and better
Yes.
as I age. So that's really the main reason why I list him as my role model for public speaking, because the motivational teaching, giving people stuff that they can use, and to being in your early 70s, still giving your best out there. That's probably even better than some of the stuff that you heard him when he was younger.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I am familiar with John Maxwell. And as you say, one of the things that is very attractive in every sense of the word is his vitality and vigor at his age, as you say. And I think particularly as younger speakers ourselves, and in the self-improvement genre, that's very exciting to know that there is a career that, as long as our voice, as long as it's one that surpasses retirement, because literally you could go until the end. And that's a beautiful thing. Dom, if we may, I'd like to come on to you now. You host the Going North podcast, and this is actually a top rated self-help podcast that, as we know, interviews authors from all over the world. And I think back to what you said in this interview, that connection and connectivity, and how in part this also helps you to connect with others, thereby reinforcing that statement you said earlier, one of the principles, the importance of who you surround yourself with. Can you tell me a little bit about the podcast and how you enjoy doing that?
Oh man, the podcast itself, it's it's one heck of a great experience, man. It's a great experience since it's an interview-based show where it's giving authors a platform to get their stories heard out there and to give them some practice of being behind the mic, especially during times like these where in-person stages are limited, even though they're slowly coming back like a snail, where it's like, still giving an opportunity. It's been one heck of a great opportunity because I call it the highlight reel builder for authors, because I've had authors from just about almost all ages. I think the youngest author I had on my show was 18 years old. He just got out of high school and he published a book called Thalen and the Gem of Life. This is like 2 years ago, 2018 in the summer. And we actually went to the same high school, not the same time, mind you, but definitely the same. He probably graduated 6 or 7 years after I did. And he actually published a book at 18, and really having him on the show all the way up to a lady who was in her early 70s, who actually she was actually part of a sharecropper's family down in South Carolina. So she grew up in the times of the civil rights movement and before that, and even parts of slavery that was still out there, picking cotton no less. So really connecting with folks from multiple generations, like really the upbringing of being in the church, then going into the library, led to the podcast, being able to connect and communicate with all these folks from different generations and giving them a voice to be heard, and heck, even as a way to documenting history and documenting stories from other people, because the goal with the show is to interview at least 1,000 different authors. That's the growth goal, because not only the knowledge I gain, but also giving folks that opportunity to get their voices heard and to create a piece of audio, and heck, even expanding now to video pieces of history for themselves and for generations to come.
Lovely, lovely. Now, as we draw to a close in this lovely interview, it will be picked up in our second one. I would just like to offer you the opportunity to share some of the wisdom that has been imparted to you. So, dealing with challenging times and so on and so forth, what are some of the things that you feel you could share with my audience that would be of great benefit in dealing with challenge, adversity, and possibly with some of their goals that are hitherto unexpressed?
Ah, yes. So, for your lovely audience, realizing that if you're still alive today, you have a reason to live and to never take your life, because life is a gift and you should always be grateful for that gift, because the life is not only a gift for yourself, but it's a gift for other people. Because there was this one powerful story from a past guest where he mentioned how he was going to commit suicide, but his father helped him to find spirituality, becoming a Christian, to help him realize that suicide will only be bad for not only just himself, but the people all around him. Because at the time of this recording, they've made September Suicide Awareness Month, and that's a good cause. That's a great cause, because especially during this year of COVID,
Yes,
a lot of people have been led to that,
yes,
especially if they watch the news constantly. And if you listen to nothing that negative crap constantly, you're gonna want to kill yourself. So make sure that you realize that your life is a gift, and it's a gift to other people. And you taking yourself out of here is not a good idea, because not only you're taking the gift away from yourself, but for the other people and the possible generations that'll be positively affected by your presence in the here and now.
yes. That's lovely. Thank you, Dom. And I want to thank you for your time today. I've really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you for the value you've brought. Thank you for the positivity. And thank you for the work you do with your books, with your podcast. And as I say, this is to be continued. But for now, Dom, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Woohoo! Right back at you, James. You're the man, baby.
That's